Hello, everybody. I'm Vince White, and I'm an employment attorney. On this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answer they need from an employment attorney, but not today because we have an esteemed co-host, Ariella Steinhorn, who I will let introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ariella or Ari Steinhorn, and I am a writer, a freelance journalist. I also am a former publicist. Sometimes I still do work to help tell client stories if they've been discriminated against or harassed in the workplace or faced some other kind of crazy thing. I've known Vince for a couple of years now and love joining the channel.
Almost a decade, I think, right?
Yeah, almost a decade. Yeah,
That's wild. It's wild how that
I,
goes.
I know.
Do
So
you
we
want
can
to,
get in. I
what was that?
was going to say we can get into these stories.
Let's do it. We're going to do an abbreviated show today, everybody. We're moving quick.
It's Summer Friday. So,
Exactly.
so this first story, I mean, this was a big deal this was front page news, and probably a huge deal for employment law generally. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of a straight woman in her job discrimination suit this week. So the straight woman lost her position to gay workers, and an appeals court had said that it was wrong to require her to meet a heightened burden in seeking to prove workplace discrimination because she was a member of a majority group. And the Supreme Court unanimously ruled in favor of her. So this is just part of this broader trend we're seeing of people, I guess, white men or straight people or people who are typically seen as being in positions of power, actually winning in society, actually winning lawsuits when they say that they've been discriminated against for their sexuality or gender or religion or all of that. What do you think, Vince? Do you think that this will have cultural changes, legal changes? Like, what does this mean?
I don't think it's going to have that big a change. I mean, most of the employment attorneys that I see talking about this, posting about this, they're like, oh, this was a unanimous decision for employee rights. This is good. This is good. And then you look at the media and they're like, this is disgusting. This is white men doing it's bad, bad. Like, the reality is, like, listen, if you're putting up a sign, like, no black people can work here, that's a bad thing. That should be illegal. You're putting up a sign, no white people can work here. No straight people can work here. Those are also bad things. I don't
Yeah,
get excited about those cases in the way I might in fighting for an African American person because all the white people can kind of pass and life's a little bit easier. And like I get that and I do feel that way. That's not why I got in this industry, but like why would it be harder to prove like a discrimination case for no whites allowed? Like what
yeah,
why should the evidentiary standard be higher? Like that doesn't I don't know. If you're writing an article being like, nah, we should have a special rule where straight people and white people, they don't get protections the same way. Well, okay. You might be on the wrong side of history. Like, that's not a
totally.
nice thing to do. Like, not what gets me out of bed in the morning. I'm not pumped about that case, but it's a case. And like, why would that person have to prove more? Yeah, like I don't know. Um,
I agree with you. I think
really?
that, yeah, I actually do. I mean, I think that, as you say, life is a lot harder for different types of protected classes in certain ways. And like, when you look at where money is concentrated and the nepotistic hires. But I
Yep.
feel like for me, that is the biggest problem is nepotism. And whoever is in the position of power at a place, if they so choose to like weed out groups of people who don't look and talk and think like them, that's the problem. So if you're like
Yeah.
a group of gays and you are like, we don't want straight people or women working with us, and we just want to hire all of our gay friends. The thing is, I think that occurs less than a group of white men being like, we don't want anyone who doesn't go to our frat or wasn't in our frat to work with us. So it's like usually the exclusionary piece usually happens, I think, among like the dominant group, but then it doesn't mean that the minority group should exclude people either.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, the reality is we're bringing cases for protected classes that have difficult, more difficult times in life at a pace of 30, 40 to 1. Like the cases we bring for straight males, I mean, it's like one of those fake luxury goods. I won't name it. Like, I don't know, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
all their shit's made in China, but they got this fake brand built up and it's all cardboard on the inside. It's garbage shoes. But like, it's a store and the store's got a structure top to bottom of only gay males. And no lesbians, no straight males ever
Right.
can work there. And it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, well, listen, you made it ugly enough that we finally agreed to take the case. And you said a bunch of mean shit to a bunch of straight guys and a bunch of lesbians, you know? Maybe you
Yeah.
guys are bad guys. Maybe, listen, I'm not saying gay people are bad guys, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
collectively, you 11 guys, you might be shit. Like,
Right.
maybe you're just bad people. And it makes sense to bring that case, you know? And so we did.
Totally.
And I was I
Does it
excited
surprise
about
you
it?
that I agree? Does it surprise you that I agree?
I mean, a little bit, because like the media's been hammering on this. And if you look at the unanimous decision, like some of those justices, pretty good people. Not
Yeah,
not
totally.
all, not all. We'll have consensus on, not all, but like,
Well, that's what I found most interesting, that it was unanimous. It wasn't like,
yeah, who
yeah,
who's pumped about discrimination, and who's like, yeah, we should make it really hard to prove discrimination cases. I mean, bad people. That's who do that, So I don't
yeah.
know.
Yep, I agree.
I love it.
Um, cool. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So there is an amendment to Washington's Equal Pay and Opportunities Act, which alters the procedures and consequences for employers who fail to disclose pay ranges and benefits information in online job postings. Um, the idea here is to hopefully prevent abuse of the act by applicants who apply solely to seek damages rather than out of interest in the job. Have you heard of this?
I have not heard of this. We've dealt with this a little bit in New York. There's a similar law in New York, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, so it turns out that Washington, which seems to be doing a lot of stuff on the employment front as a state,
Yes. Yes.
but so they allow employees and applicants to sue for actual damages, statutory damages, and attorney's fees. Previously, employees and applicants could seek statutory damages of $5,000 even if they suffered no actual damages and did not provide the employer with advance notice to cure a deficient posting. So there have been class action firms filing hundreds of lawsuits on behalf of purported applicants. So it sounds like people were just taking, like, the bill was passed in good faith to give people salary transparency, but then
Yeah.
it sounds like people were taking advantage of that and they weren't actually ever interested in working for the company. They just wanted to join a class of people who would work with law firms that would be willing to take these cases to shake down the employer, is what it sounds like. And then
Yeah.
they changed but I don't know. I don't know if people, I can't, it's strange to me to envision someone just like getting really excited about like fake applying to jobs just so they can join a class action lawsuit. But I don't know.
I mean, so they do stuff like that here in New York. There's people who there's attorneys, allegedly, who I've met who allegedly will take like a little bus of people in wheelchairs around to businesses that they've identified that don't have the correct disability accessibility, right?
Hmm.
And they'll get everybody off the bus, be like, hey, we've got 6 customers here for you. They want to come in. Oh, you can't let them in because you don't have the proper accessibility. And they go file lawsuits for like 5 grand, 10 grand a pop,
Yeah.
which the company has to settle because they can't get a permit to put a ramp on the sidewalk or whatever it is. And these cottage industries, they exist, attorneys will abuse them. It happens. Like, I'm not surprised it happened, but I'm not mad this law had teeth either. In New York, the law doesn't
Yeah.
have very much teeth. People post job postings like, oh, we're paying between 60 and 400,000. Okay. Like somebody came at us. We had a job posting recently. We've been on a hiring spree, and it was like 90 to 160K. And they're like, well, how the F am I supposed to know which I'm going to get? We're like, well, how many
Mhm.
years of employment litigation do you have? Like that's
Right.
that's the standard. You know what I mean? Like, do you run cases the way we want you to run cases? Do you have 8 years of experience? You don't? Okay, guess what? It's
Yeah.
not gonna be 160. It's not gonna be three, whatever it is.
Right.
But there's no teeth to that law in New York, in my experience.
Like people, if people don't post transparent salary bands, they don't
Yeah.
get penalized for it. Even yeah.
And the spectrum, the how wide the salary
So
bands
why?
are,
Mhm.
it's nonsensical. Like, oh, we're
Right.
hiring a VP of sales, anywhere from 100 to 600 grand.
Yeah.
What determines that? Does
Yeah.
is he somebody's son? Like, how do we figure this out? Like it's kind
Right.
of ridiculous in New York. So
And then
like,
once you click into those jobs, it's like there's so many caveats, like
yeah,
bonuses and stock options, and it's very nebulous. So I think
yep,
people see the big number on the higher end of the threshold and they click into it, but it may not actually be close to the reality.
exactly,
Yeah.
100%. And so like, listen, could they tighten it up in Washington? Maybe. Am I
Yeah.
glad it has teeth? I am. You
Yeah.
know?
Totally. I heard this really, speaking of equal pay, I heard this really interesting story from someone this week because I did a piece about equal pay and the movie about Lily Ledbetter. So I
Yeah.
interviewed the director who made that movie,
Hmm.
um,
Liddy
which was
Ledbetter?
yeah about
There's
Lily
a
Ledbetter.
movie about Liddy Ledbetter?
Yeah,
Oh my
I'll send.
God, is it available?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can we
Do you
do
want me
like
to?
a screening on the channel? Like that's incredible.
Totally. I can send you my piece on the director too, and it's like the
Please
trailer.
do.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, that has been a career changer for me. I mean, it predates my career, but like that law has been incredible.
yep. Yeah. No,
Please.
it's a wild. It's a very cool story because it's so many of these stories are made into documentaries, but this is actually like a feature film. Patricia Clarkson plays Lily Ledbetter. It's a great. It's good. I went to see it a couple of weeks ago, and you should.
It
Yeah.
makes me mad. People are taking her name. People have started in the industry have started calling it, oh yeah, equal pay. I'm the federal law for equal pay. I'm like, you mean the Liddy Ledbetter claim? And they're like, no, no, equal pay. I'm like,
You're like,
no, you mean Liddy Ledbetter.
but it's
Equal pay.
incredible. Like, yeah, they should call it Lily Ledbetter because of all the shit that she had to go through. If you when
Yeah.
you watch the movie,
She deserves it.
I didn't realize like she took it all the way up to the Supreme Court and like she was intimidated and like her husband was had cancer towards the end of it and she just went through so much. So
Yeah.
like yeah, and she died um the day that the movie was screened for the
No.
first time. She died at like hours later.
Oh my
Her
God.
daughter came to her like hospital bedside and was like, "Mom, the movie was amazing. You'll love it." I
Oh
think
my
she did
God.
like she saw it before she died, but the first public screening, her daughter came back to tell her mom, and then hours later she died.
Can you send us a link to your piece so we can link
Yeah,
it down below?
yeah,
Amazing.
totally.
Okay.
But so someone reached out to me in the context of that piece, and she was like, she was working for a company, found out that she and a bunch of women were getting paid a lot less than their male colleague who's doing the same work. Um,
Sure.
they apparently that company was taken over by private equity, and she told me this interesting thing that sometimes they actually, when private equity comes in, they fire the men who are paid more unequally, and then keep the women who are paid less. So they're just like suppressing wages for everybody. And I was like, that's fascinating because it's like nobody wins in that scenario. Instead
Yeah.
of bringing the women's salaries up to meet the men's, like they just fire the men.
Yeah, the world's crazy. There's so many ways. I don't know. There's so many ways to screw people over. I feel like it's depressing.
Totally.
The
Yeah.
the limits of human creativity, right?
Right?